All right, just a quick show of hands. How many of you have already developed apps using AppStudio? Yes? Okay, that's good. If you're not, then this is not an introduction or anything, so we're going to go to pretty advanced stuff. However, this is useful information if you're considering writing an app using AppStudio so that you can start thinking about it. Let's see, I think we have 30 minutes, is it right? 25 to be honest, so I'll just get started right on time, which is right now. Hi folks, my name is Satya, this is Chris, and we really don't have time for introduction, so I'll just get started, okay? So today's topic is deploying your AppStudio apps in the enterprise. It's a new topic that we have introduced in this Dev Summit. It came about because there was a lot of questions around it, so we thought let's actually give you a slide deck and something to think about. So I'll try to cover as much as I can with a limited time, but we will share you the slides if you want to take a look at it later. Okay. So the first things we want to talk about is the distribution options and the deployment options available to distribute or to take your apps to the enterprise. So you already know that AppStudio is a cross-platform app. You can write apps for your mobile devices, phones, tablets, and even for desktop applications. So you know all that. We give you a build tool so you can actually create your own builds. We also give you a player that you can actually play your apps. Okay, let's assume that we all know that. So now, what are our options to take your apps to the enterprise? That's the question. Well, we actually have 3 very specific deployment options when you think about taking your apps to the enterprise. Okay, so let's take a look at the first one. The first option that we give you is the AppStudio player. If you're an AppStudio developer, most probably you know what an AppStudio player is. If you're not, AppStudio player is basically a magical app that will help you run your AppStudio apps without having to create separate apps for everything you write. It's basically a container to run all of your amazing apps in one place. It's actually pretty cool. You don't have to compile it or do any stuff. Now, we actually give you this out of the box. It's actually ready to use on all devices. It works on desktops, phones, iPads, tablets. And we have already published it to all the app stores. It's available on Amazon App Store if anybody goes there, but it's also available on Google Play and iOS. It's available everywhere. You just have to download it, sign in with your ArcGIS credentials, and if you have access to any of the apps, you will start seeing it. You can start downloading and playing it right away and then start testing your apps. But the problem here is that we gave you AppStudio Player so that you can evaluate, test, and debug AppStudio apps. Okay? We did not give it so that you can distribute apps in your enterprise. However, you can still use it. I'm just saying that the primary focus of AppStudio Player, the one that we have released, is to evaluate, test, and debug. There's also a lot of samples available. Basically, it's got a lot of stuff in it that your enterprise users might not appreciate because it's actually made for you to write AppStudio apps. So this deployment solution is actually ideal for developers and testers working together. It's ideal for getting some stakeholder feedback. So you write an app, you want the graphics department to approve it and legal to approve it or something. It's easy. You can just say, hey, download player, install this app, you're done, right? You don't have to tell them how to install it and all that kind of stuff. And it's also very nice. We've been getting feedback that it's great for a contractor-client kind of relationship where you're an app building sort of company or a business. You're writing an app and you want to get feedback or get the initial thoughts, and you just can say, and they can also track your progress by just opening up the player on there and just seeing how everything comes together. So this is actually a great solution for that. But what is the real power is we actually gave you the source code of player in AppStudio. So this is a very good option for you to deploy in your enterprises. This is a custom player. So again, what is it? Well, since it's the clone of what we already have, it's ready to use on all devices. How cool is that? It's already ready to go. The source code is available in the desktop, but it's amazingly customizable and configurable out of the box itself. And on top of it, you can brand it to your organization. You don't need to call it player. You can call it whatever you guys want, right? Call it appropriately for your own organization. You can even just use it to distribute it to your enterprise. The best part about it is, because you're distributing it to the enterprise, your custom AppStudio player need not go to the App Store. You can just distribute it. And on top of it, the apps within AppStudio player automatically are dynamic, so you don't even go, right? So once you distribute this and they have all these things on their devices, they just magically see all these apps coming in because you're sort of allowing them to see it. On top of it, you have a lot of control on what users see, how they sign, which portal they use. You can actually even open the source code and add a little bit of your own logic on top of it so that you can actually tailor it even more to your organization. In fact, this is perfect for enterprise distribution of apps, because all you have to do is do this once. And once this player is out there, or your own version of player is out there, anybody can make use of it. Okay? You can even customize it to specific needs, and more importantly, it's one container to run mobile apps. Some people have also been creative and also included web apps within that. So you all know AppStudio player can run AppStudio apps, right? Some people got creative and say, hey, but I can also open a browser within my native app, right? So let me just also enable web apps on it so that I can also do that. So they pretty much use it as a distribution for both, which is not a bad idea at all. We kind of like it. And it's very low maintenance. You just have to maintain one app once, because the apps that run within AppStudio player or your own player are dynamic in nature. You can take them away, you can update anytime, not a problem. It is actually a great tool, so to be honest. So what are some of the options available? These are the out-of-the-box options available. You can specify which portal URL you want to hit, right? If you don't specify, it goes to arcgis.com, but you can specify to your enterprise. You can specify to your specific account. It's already there, ready to go. It allows you to customize colors out of the box so that you can actually brand it. It even allows you to change fonts if you want to, because it is very specific to your organization. You can even tell us which group ID to go to, so that instead of showing samples, it actually shows you the apps that you want them to show, right? Or want them to see. You can even specify a custom email to your support or something, so that a nice email interface comes and they can get feedback to you if something is wrong. We even give you a toggle kind of option to hide the QR code scanner, to hide diagnostics, to remove remote console, to remove sample apps. Basically, we'll give you options to just remove all the things you don't want, so that it is actually a focused app. These are the options available without coding, okay? But the source code is there. You can add a lot more to it. So what are some of the things that we are adding? We are adding ability, because you guys are asking for it, we are adding ability to auto update. So we'll give you an option to say auto update true or false, and if you say that, every time somebody opens this custom player, all the apps will automatically update for them if there is any updates, right? And then, because a lot of people are using it also to launch web apps, we will just make it part of the functionality of the player itself, so that you can run your AppStudio apps. You can also run all your operations dashboards, so 1, 2, 3, whatever else you have, right in that as a container, so that you actually make use of this as your primary way to distribute it within your enterprise. Are you guys getting it? Right. In fact, why don't we just show an example of it? Chris, you want to show some example?
All right, I'm going to show you a quick demonstration on how we've customized a version of AppStudio Player. So I'm in AppStudio Desktop right now. I've got AppStudio Player here. This is the uncustomized version, what it looks like. You have a number of things at the bottom, including things like access to all the samples that we offer, which is a really cool tool. You can access these samples, these seven or almost 70 samples that we've got, and access all the different apps in my organization. How did I get this? Well, it's one of our templates. So if you go to create new app, enterprise, there it is, along with things like survey 1, 2, 3, we give you the player template. Well, I've taken that, and with some help from some coworkers here, we have just gone through the settings and some of the properties and some text files and just edited some colors and icons And this is, imagine, this, we often, as we use Naperville, Illinois as a demo data set. Imagine, I am with the city of Naperville, Illinois, and I want to provide an app for my city, for people that work in my city. I can create this custom Naperville Apps app, I wouldn't call it an app player or whatever, I just call it the Naperville Apps, and they could download that onto their device. So I'll show you what kind of the end product looks like here on this iPad. All right, so here you see my iPad, and I've got that Naperville app. Let me make sure, yep, all right. So I launched the Naperville app, City of Naperville. I've already previously logged in, so it kind of went through the login screen. And you see I've got 2 apps there that have been installed on this device. I can hit this one here. This is a Naperville hydrant inspection. In here, this is our map viewer template. And I can, if I'm working with in the city, in the public works maybe, and I want to understand information about the hydrants that for my city. And this is a really nice template. Turn it sideways, get the slide panel, do things like change the to an imagery base map. So that's one app. You can exit out. You see that? There's a little tab there on the side there, and I can actually move it around. Simply tap that, and I can exit out back to my main app. At the bottom, I've removed that samples. I've moved the samples app because I don't samples tab because we don't need it. I do in the middle there. You see, I've got one of my apps. It has a little red dot, and it's saying, "Hey, your Fire Reporter app that needs an update." So I can hit that, and it'll update the app. Now I know that my Fire Reporter app is updated. And this app is to report fire incidents and information using our quick report template. I can say there's a hot spot at this location, go through the process. It'll show you where I'm centered at in this case. So you can imagine there's all sorts of different apps that you can add into this. And let's go back to the last tab there. Those are all the apps that I've got in my organization that are available to me. I see another one that I haven't downloaded yet, this garbage recycling app. I click on that, and now, and so those are in the cloud. Now I go to my home page, and it's there for me. And in fact, this is a unique one because this really just opens up completely in a browser. This is just a web app builder application that runs in a browser, but I can include it as one of the gallery of apps in my application. So, if I'm building these apps, how do I, once this app is just deployed to my organization, the key concept is once this is deployed to my organization and I want to push out new apps, I don't go to the app stores to push out new apps. I don't have to deal with in creating a binary build. I just create a new app with AppStudio, upload that to my ArcGIS organization, and it would show up here if I share it to a group, just like sharing a web map to a group, and it would show up in my application as a new app, and I could run it. And that could have offline capabilities, it could have editing capabilities, it could do all sorts of things. That's kind of the power of being able to use a custom version of Player as kind of your app container in your organization.
All right. Thanks, Chris. So you can see that it actually opens up a lot of opportunities. The kinds of apps you build is up to you, online offline apps. It doesn't matter, it'll just run. Well, let's keep going. But your AppStudio also allows you to write standalone apps. You don't have to use Player. You can always use, build your apps. You can also use that. So chances are that it's a very focused app. You want to build and distribute it. You want to target specific devices, platforms. That's a very valid option. And you can also deploy. So all the 3 deployment options are available. Use a standard Player, use a custom Player, or you can just build standalone apps. All 3 are possible. Now the question is, you have done one of, say you have actually gone through the standalone app, or you have actually done a custom Player app and you have actually built it, because you first need to deploy that, right? What are your options to do that? A lot of people actually might not know that apps can be distributed in two completely different paradigms. One, and the most common one that is apps can be distributed through app stores, right? Everybody has a phone. You go to your Apple App Store, Google App Store. That's one way to do it. But there are some considerations when you want to do it. You want to go to the App Store because you have a global audience, or you have a wide audience. You can't distribute it to them like device by device, and hence you just want to put it out there, and then you just want them to discover it through the App Store and then download it. So to do that, you'll have to sign with the App Store certificates. You should know how to get the App Store certificates. You have to build and submit it to the App Stores. And if you're submitting it to the Apple App Store, you'll have to go through an app review. On Google App Store, on Google Play Store, there's no review process. It's straightforward. And then sometimes you'll also have to choose specific countries that you want to expose this app to. This is pretty standard stuff. So that's a good use case for an app store. But what you don't see is for every app that you see on the App Store, there are thousands of apps that's not there in the App Store. It's actually being distributed behind the scenes in an enterprise. What is an enterprise? Like, you can just write an app and distribute it between two of you. That's also fine. It still comes under this enterprise category. Or you could actually write an app and distribute it to 300 people which work in your group or which work in your company. That's also an enterprise category, okay? So the advantage is that you sign in using enterprise certificates on iOS, and on Android it's a self-sign certificate. There's no app store, there's no app reviews, and you can make it available inside your enterprise. The only downside is there's no app store, right? So you have to create your own app store, and there are many options available. You can host it on a website, you can use an MDM, you can sideload it. There's many options available, and these are pretty common options that people use in enterprise, okay? So these are the two options. However, this is for the mobile apps. AppStudio can also be used to write desktop apps. For desktop apps, you can build the executables and you can host it. This is a pretty well-known pattern. I'm not going to spend time. So this session is specific towards what to do, how to get your AppStudio apps to the enterprise. So a lot of people have approached us in the last year and said, hey, this is great, but our organizations use something called as an MDM. How many of your organizations use MDM? Right. MDM is, let me just introduce you what is MDM if you're not aware of it. So if I actually go back over here, you see this enterprise category. So a lot of businesses saw a business opportunity in this enterprise category, and they created this mobile device management software for this enterprise category, because what you don't realize is some enterprises have thousands of devices. How do you manage them? How do you remotely control them? How do you remotely wipe them? How do you remotely install apps? And what about iOS? What about Android? What if an employee leaves? What if he takes it on vacation? These are all the things that they're worried about, right? So they buy these expensive softwares, which is called mobile device management or enterprise mobile management. There's different terminologies. So what are these? Very quickly, MDM is mobile device management. Actually, it is a part of a bigger solution called enterprise mobility management, which is what the new term is. It's called EMM, okay? This has got nothing to do with AppStudio. I'm just educating you guys as to where we are going. Basically, it is used to control, secure, enforce policies on smartphones and tablets and endpoints. You must have you guys are used to doing this on Windows laptop, right? Sometimes it's a pain that some IT administrators install something and it will not allow you to recognize the USB. It will not. That's because they're using a controlling software on your Windows. A very similar solution is also available for your mobile devices and for your mobility devices, right? It ranges. So there's some popular providers, VMware, AirWatch, okay? These are big companies. Microsoft has Intune. There's Mobile Iron. There is, it's not Samsung, it's Samsung, Knox Manage, okay? This is just a few, right? There's actually more than this, I believe there's more. So these are all generally called, mobile device management providers. So the question is, why do we need MDM? Well, your company will decide that, but generally these are the cases that they need MDM. Basically, it's a single management console for your IT, so they will log on to it and they will control it. It has a global architecture for your sign-in, login, LDAP. If you know all these words, then most probably that's what it is. It's easy device enrollment, custom device profiles, automated compliance. They get real-time dashboards as to how many people are using apps and what time and how they get, and device commands messaging, advanced logging for compliance. So if you have some compliance requirements, then they can prove that this device and these apps are actually compliant. So they need it for many reasons, and they would have applied that. Why are we even talking about all these things? Because when you write AppStudio apps, you're asking us that when you try to deploy an AppStudio app to your MDM solution, it somehow didn't work initially, right? That is because a mobile app that actually can participate in the MDM falls into one of these three categories. They will either require you to have a per app VPN, okay? These are very specific terminologies. You might not even understand what it does, but it doesn't matter. They want you to say that it is supported, right? It's per app VPN. They also want you to support this technology called app config, okay? These are the words that they're going to use. And they also want you to support the file and content sharing capabilities so that these MDM providers can enforce those policies on you, okay? So these things are the requirements from an app perspective for you to participate in the MDM space, okay? Otherwise, you cannot be deployed through an MDM software, because basically they want a way for you to control, right? They want to control this. So your app has to allow them to control it, right? So those pieces need to be built into the app. That is what they're asking you to do. And that specifically falls into these three categories. All right, I'm trying to simplify it, okay? But just to give you guys an idea. Okay, now I'll come to the real point of why we are talking, okay? This was just an introduction. I'm happy to announce that AppStudio now supports MDM. All right, it's been a big ask, and we recognize that we had to do a lot of work, and we have done it. So we have just released the 3.3 beta. The 3.3 full version will be available in April, okay? It's not too far away. So we have introduced a new plugin called AppFramework.management. AppFramework.management is basically will provide you the MDM support, and it does support for the managed app configuration called app config, so it can actually read and participate in it. And it also gives you this managed app configuration object that you can actually program against in your app. So basically that's what you need to do. You need to import that module and then work with this managed app configuration object to understand and listen if the MDM is trying to tell you something. Because MDM will open and somebody will open the dashboard and your app is already installed on 1,000 devices. Somebody will open the dashboard and say, from now on, this kind of apps will only should do this X. They'll just do a checkbox and they'll say save. And they will over the air transmit that to all the devices. And all the devices will say, okay, an MDM agent, they'll install something called as an agent, and the agent will say, oh my God, my configuration has set, my changed. I'm going to let all the apps know that this has changed. So your app needs to, through this managed app configuration will listen to that and then tell your app, your code that, hey, something has changed. So please react to this. So you have to program it and say, okay, now I understand what you're telling. I'll actually secure it or unsecure it, or show a warning message that, oh, you cannot use this app anymore. It has been revoked. Things like that. Okay. So it basically works that way. So it's a 4-step process. You need to include something called as a restriction file. Again, it's not our problem, but Android and iOS don't agree on how MDM should work. So they have created 2 separate standards for themselves. So we have to support both because we're cross-platform, okay? So we create restrictions.xml for Android, schema configuration.xml for your iOS, and you include that property in the app info as to where to find those files, and then use the manage app configuration in your code, and you can retrofit any of your apps using this, okay? And you can even add it at a later point. It's not a problem. And if you have the MDM code in your app, and you don't use it in MDM, it's not going to hurt you, okay? Just be aware of that. However, if you write an app, especially if you're a third-party provider and you say it's MDM approved or it actually works, it's a lot of value because they actually you can charge more for it, to be honest, because you have done extra work to accommodate that. Are you guys getting it? All right. I don't know how much time we have. We actually have 5 more minutes. Let me actually show you how it might look like. This is what your IT administrator or the person controlling the MDM might look like. Do you guys want to see a demo? a quick demo. You might have never seen this, but this is the behind the scenes look. So this is AirWatch. So somebody is actually logging into AirWatch, and they're going to set up this app and assign it to a set of people. Okay? Oh wow. Something happened to my computer. Well, my computer gave up. Maybe doesn't like MDMs. But essentially that's the video I have. So that is the interface where they will select your app. For example, they will upload your APK or upload your IP, and that will say, oh yeah, I can read the MDMs. And they'll say push now to the thousands of people that need to get this app. So what's going to happen on the other side is, on your phones, you will have an agent. They would have installed an agent. And that agent will recognize that, oh, a new app is available, and it will automatically install this app on you. It's magical. It will suddenly start appearing on your screen because they pretty much control your phone, right? And then once you click on that, it will be working fine. Then suddenly they'll make a change. So the next time you open it, or in fact, even when your app is open, they can change something because they can click a button anytime. And that change will come through that object I just showed you and tell your code that this has changed, and you can react to it, for example. Okay? What are some of the common things you might want to define? For example, you might want to say the portal URL to your ArcGIS organization. Maybe when you write the app, it is arcgis.com, but when the administrator might want to change it to your own portal. You might want to have a property called always log in true or false or something like that. And you might say it's fine if you don't log in, you can still use the app. But the administrator might say, no, it's a compliance in our company that I have to know who has used this app. So I am forcing you to log in every single time. Well, we'll have to comply for that. In your app, you might be very nice and say, just log in once and use fingerprint, and next time don't worry about logging in because I can remember you, right? Well, the administrator will say, no, our company policy doesn't allow that. I do not want any convenience. I want you to log in every single time you open the app. Well, that might be a requirement, because what if you have left the company between logins? That's what they worry about. It's very rare you leave company between logins, but it might happen, right? So they want to protect you against it. So they're going to say, yes, this is a policy and you have to follow it. So those kinds of things they will push, and your app can be ready to react to that. Are you guys getting it? So this was my it's the only time we have. So these are all the things you can do. So basically, AppStudio has got deployment options for your enterprise. Use Player to your advantage. AppStudio apps are now MDM ready. And one thing you need to take a note is, there is two ways you can deploy apps. One is through the app stores. One is outside of app stores. Okay, both are valid ways of distributing it. Don't think App Store is the only way to do it. And you can write any number of apps. There's no limit to that. All right? Yeah. Thank you, everyone.